All right, you're live.
All right.
You're recording, right?
It's live already.
Perfect.
It's part of the percent.
Yes, he's for our first item, please.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. I call to order our Finance and Personnel Committee meeting on Monday, November 27, 2023 at 5:30 p.m. Roll call.
Alder West,
Present.
Alder Horton,
Here.
Alder Land. Here. Alder Paffrath.
Here.
Alder McCarthy.
Present.
That completes roll call.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes for November 13, 2023. Move to approve.
Second.
Properly moved and second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Minutes approved. First item.
Item number 1138-23, communication sponsored by Mayor Mason on behalf of the city clerk requesting permission to enter into a 3-year interstate agreement with Carasoft Technology Corporation for the purchase of polymorphic customer relationship management software. Staff recommendation that the mayor and city clerk be granted permission to enter into a 3-year agreement with Carasoft Technology Corporation for the purchase of polymorphic customer relationship management software. Fiscal note, $250,000 of initial funding is available in the 2024 capital budget. Year 2 and 3 will be budgeted in subsequent years' operational budgets. Clerk McMenamin is here to speak on the item.
Hi, thank you for having me for the first half of your agenda today. The first item we have on the agenda is for an agreement with Polymorphic. Polymorphic is a customer relationship software system. So I'll give you kind of a brief overview. We also have Parth, who is on the line. He is the CEO of Polymorphic. He can speak a little bit more about the technical side and maybe answer some questions if anyone has one. So the customer relationship management program is going to do a lot of tracking throughout the city about calls, when they're being answered, who's calling, what the call is about, has the constituent been replied to yet, what was the outcome of those sort of cases. So a lot of the system focuses on making sure our customers are being answered, our customers being our citizens in the city of Racine. So a lot of times you hear this, we called and nothing happened, right? We'll be able to look up those types of cases and make sure that every call is being answered. This would be a citywide computer system, so it would be something that would need to be implemented throughout all of the different departments. So I expect a little bit of a lengthy implementation. However, I know Parth is very good and I know I like to move quickly, so hopefully not too fast, but fast enough to get the city onto the system within the next year, year and a half at max. I'll let Parth speak a little bit about the system and then we'd be happy to answer any questions. Parth?
Absolutely. Thank you all for having me. Yeah, so to just echo what Tara said, we work with cities and counties across the country, primarily addressing this challenge I think constituents face, which is either questions, applications, processes, things that they are requesting services around. How do you track them? Currently, most phone calls are tracked on Post-it notes. There's emails that come in, people come in person. Those are all split up across departments. Even for an individual staff member, it's very hard to coordinate that. So one of the big things that we're doing there is obviously the customer service experience is better, but it's also to help staff make sure that 2 months, 3 months from now, if they want to look back and see we handled a certain request, you can see it in the system. If you have workflows you want to create, which is here are the set of steps we want to go through, you can do it in the system. And then we have a variety of other tools as well that help streamline and make more accessible certain question and answers that constituents may have, and different kinds of processes that we want to either support internally or public facing for folks to apply on.
Parth, can you speak a little bit to both the AI capabilities as well as some of the asset tracking and being able to reach out to certain either areas in the community or maybe groups of people who have inquired? I know we used kind of the Lakeview Community Center as kind of one of our spots when we were in the demo, but being able to reach out to people who are interested in updates and being able to keep kind of those contact lists as well as the AI and that kind of capability.
Absolutely. And I can show real quick, just with the visual there too, of how that looks. So given it's a CRM, we're doing a key piece of it is obviously providing you that contact information. And so one of the really big benefits too is it's tying into your CRM. For communications, you can draw kind of bounding boxes for if we want to reach out to folks in that region, and this is all powered by that CRM, then you can send out communications in that region. So this is great for if there's road closure, other types of updates we want to give out. And then on the AI side, we allow you to basically do question and answer and make that much more easy to see. So here's an example from a larger county in North Carolina, around 160,000 residents. They've had a ton of challenges around where people would go to the website, have a question, couldn't find an answer because the search isn't, built to actually answer those questions. We'll call county staff. They didn't have enough folks to handle the front desk, so this is becoming a pretty big challenge. With the AI search, what they're able to do, and there's also a chat version, you can actually ask a question. It takes content just from the website and different sources that Rowan County has whitelisted and turns it into a very detailed answer. So it's saved significant amount of phone calls, provided better experience for constituents, and they've even been able to use it internally to onboard staff at the front desk faster as they're getting up to speed on questions and answers. So this is something that will be set up for Racine as well.
I think any questions you have, Parth, anything else you feel pertinent to explain? The system has a lot of capabilities, so please ask away. It does a whole bunch of things. It's kind of hard to explain in a short amount of time, but happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you. Parth, this will be software as a service, I assume. We're not bringing this on site. Is that true?
Yeah, it runs in the AWS cloud on US servers.
Okay, are we keeping identities of our citizens out there in any fashion? What information is actually kept out there?
Only information that they've either submitted on applications, but usually it's going to be emails, addresses, things that are actually tied to or already being collected in a certain form, application, or communication. So it's nothing that's not given voluntarily.
Just to follow up on that a little, we currently do take a lot of information, including birth dates and social security numbers for a lot of our licenses in the clerk's office. Those things do come with open records requests. However, there are certain things that we redact when being able to provide those out. So it won't be an open system that's searchable for anyone. But if people do provide an open records request, we are able to redact those types of informations under the law.
So we talked about moving our licenses with that information into the system?
Correct. So the licenses would go into the system.
What kind of certifications do you have for security if we're gonna have that level of information? Part, do you have a SOC 2 for your organization? I know AWS has one. Do you have something for your organization specifically?
Yeah, so with we have it through AWS, and then we're going through SOC Type 1 right now and SOC Type 2 as well.
Okay, so you don't have them yet, but it will be available within.
Yes, exactly by January.
During
Sorry, repeat that.
During 2024, you'll have that in place?
Correct.
Okay. Everything on there, what is the capability for the customer to get the status on their own request at this point? What do they need to supply to do that? Do they get an order number in essence and they follow up by putting in the order number, or how does that work?
Sure. So the system does have a login and anyone can enter a case right into the login. You can open it up with your login and search all of the cases that you have outstanding and historical cases that have already been answered. I don't expect that part to roll out first, right? We want to make sure that our internal systems are working. So if you call about a missed garbage, we want to make sure that, right, we're getting out there and taking care of that. Once we're confident in our ability to both enter in the department that's taking it in, as well as all the follow-ups, we will be opening that up to the public. So the public will be able to submit tickets.
So we are actually going to have usernames and passwords in the system or for our citizens.
Sorry, the audio is a bit fuzzy there. Just password. We obviously salt and hash the passwords, so we don't have access to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just that's out there. Okay. So.
Yeah.
All right.
The system does also come with the capability to both put applications online as well as take payments online. So that's all included with the fee that's proposed. So I anticipate a lot of our applications moving over to a system where people can pay via credit card online and also fully be able to apply for licenses such as bartender licenses that are relatively simple.
And for the finance director, $250,000, is that same price as years 2 and 3, or does that include the implementation costs? And that's why it's capital.
So the 250 includes the implementation costs for 2024. 2025 and 2026 will be relatively similar only because we did try to level it out over the 3 years. but that will go into the operational budget for 25 and 26. It'll be part of the IT budget for 25 and 26.
We've in essence taken the implementation costs and spread them over 3 years.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion? Go ahead. You have the floor.
Will the system work bilingual level?
I'll turn that one over to Clark. Bilingual capabilities.
Yeah, so we have support for Google Translate in there, and then for the AI search, it'll have over I think 20 different languages supported as well. So for a lot of the constituent facing side, we have multiple language support.
As well. As well. Like
Would you mean a-
forms online.
You mean to apply for a license online?
Yeah.
So that will be translated, but that will be done here because we enter the questions that we want the customers to be typing in. So we'll have an English and then a dash and then a Spanish, so that they will be bilingual.
Do we offer those forms bilingual right now, or is that being enhanced?
That's actually something we budgeted in 2024. So we do have someone who's taking over our forms as well as translation services. So that'll all kind of be in this slow movement forward.
All right, on the contract, you have the floor.
Are there other municipalities that are using this software?
I know there's West Bend. Park, did you say there were 2 other Wisconsin municipalities currently using the system?
Yeah, West Bend's about to start using the AI stuff, but Bayside and East Troy use it currently.
And do you have a plan for how to interface with Alden? So you get lots of questions.
I don't have the answer to that question yet, but we're working on it. Certainly reach out and we will start to answer whatever you have. I anticipate a lot of different departments and including alders having questions on what we can and can't get. So as we move forward, there's a lot of data in that system and it pulls really nice AI reports to tell you maybe where bottlenecks are happening, right? Or where things aren't getting done. It also integrates with our current CityWorks, which we use in a lot of other departments for workflows through an open API. So as we start seeing that stuff come in, certainly ask and we'll be able to get you, however we can. So.
And then lastly, what's the plan for gathering contact information for residents? I know now you might get a robocall to a landline, but I don't know that, is there a way to have access to email addresses or a way to contact constituents within that sort of mapped area when you want to let people know about road closures or issues in their neighborhoods?
Great question. So I think we have a lot of that information already, but they're in so many places, it's hard to be able to gather that information into one. So the plan as we implement is to be able to take these lists, right? We can take out, the addresses from this system, the phone numbers from here, right? All of those things and compile them when we upload. Obviously, in the first couple months, we're going to be updating data. Does this person still live here? Is it their phone number? So as calls and emails come in, the system actually integrates with our Outlook system and with our phone system to be able to start updating that information as we go. The question is just, as the information we're pulling in the beginning, the most current information, I don't know that. So let's see how it goes.
Alderman McCarthy, you have the floor.
I'd like to ask part in different language. Let's speak a little bit then on the Pat question. Our aldermanic districts are geographically based. Is there going to be a way that you can tag the cases for us so we can look at all open cases and the resolution times, all those kind of things?
Yeah,
For our districts.
yeah, you can do it by tag. You can also do it by that map selector as I showed, and we could have pre-filled geo shapes for the different districts. So you have both ways of doing it, but the tag system is also very robust, which a lot of our cities and counties use.
Okay, thank you.
I will say if there's specific tags as alders that you think you may want, it would be good to proactively reach out so that we can start incorporating them from the start. Whereas updating that later on, that specific request would be hard.
Is there a relationship to this system, which is AI and public records request?
I believe the anticipation is hopefully to maybe put some public records requests into the service request so people can request and track. I don't know, Park, maybe you can answer that. I'm not aware of anything, but does AI do anything with public records or can help you search records online?
It can be used. I mean, that's an interesting use case for it. I mean, generally, like the public records, it would be a process in polymorphic where we'd have an application that folks can fill out and submit a public records request through. But it is useful for searching any kind of public documentation that you may have. Some of our clients, when they use it for internal documents or internal search, they're able to use that to at least find matches for public records requests. But that just depends on what information is provided to the internal search in that case.
I will say one of the website components that it will search if we integrate it correctly will be the Legistar calendar. So everything that's passed through Common Council since 2005, right? All of those things will be searchable. They currently are. It's just a little bit harder for the public to find. The AI system will make it a little bit more convenient and a little bit easier.
Any other questions or discussion? All right, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion at this time for item 1138-2.
Move to approve.
I'll
Second.
second.
All right, properly moved by Alder McCarthy and seconded by Alder Horton. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
Item number 1123-23, communication sponsored by Alder West on behalf of the purchasing agent requesting permission to submit the bid results for official notice number 12-2023 RFP Event Management Services Contract number 2024-002. Staff recommendation that the purchasing agent be authorized and directed to negotiate contract 2024-002 RFP Event Management Services and award the contract to 5K Events LLC and execute a 2-year contract for the period of 1/1/24 to 12/31/25. Fiscal note, annual base management fee is estimated to be $150,000 per year. Funding is available in 606-86-52290 management fee. Clerk McMiniman actually wrote the ABM for this one, so she can kick it off and
Sure, so we actually have 5K events with us. I'll ask them to come and stand up so I can answer questions as well. The bid team went through, this is for the management of both Memorial and Festival Hall. So currently we had Venue Works, which we had attended multiple times. We went through a bid process. We had a relatively amazing team of 5, I believe. So the selection was 5K events for the management of both of those facilities. Happy to entertain any questions.
Alder McCarthy, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you. 5K events. You do several times as we discussed earlier. What the heck does that have to do with managing Festival Hall and Memorial Hall?
Use that little bit if you want to.
All right, I know that, I'll kind of introduce myself. My name is Patrick Flynn, and I stand here before you today, not just as president of 5K events, but as a lifelong resident of Racine and proud member of this vibrant community. And for as long as I remember, the stewardship of Festival Park has been a hot topic, most scrutiny and heartfelt participation. So back in the late 80s, when Festival Park was merely a glimmer of hope, I recall an unwavering belief in its potential as a beacon of community spirit. I vividly recall the day the park's monument at the Founder Square was unveiled, and my mother and I standing side by side, and our faces beaming with excitement with what lay ahead. Like countless Racine families, we wholeheartedly embraced the development of Festival Park, contributing our time, resources, and unwavering support. The vision was simple yet profound, to create a communal hub, a tapestry of woven from the threads of our community's collective dreams. Excuse me, I'm a sore throat, so I'm just gonna get through this. Over time, the once vibrant tapestry has faded. The echoes of laughter and camaraderie replaced by a veil of silence. And the park's glory days seem like a distant memory of a relic of a bygone era. Today, we stand at a crossroads, an opportunity to reclaim the vision, rekindle the spirit that once breathed life in Festival Park. And my company, 5K Events, is not merely a business entity, but it's an embodiment of the community's resilience and unwavering spirit. With over 1,000 successful events orchestrated nationwide, we have proven our ability to galvanize communities, foster engagement, and drive positive change. Our team, deeply rooted in this community, understands the pulse of our people, their aspirations, and their concerns. And our vision for Festival Park is not merely a restoration, it's a renaissance, a rebirth of this scarce community space. And we envision a park brimming with activity, stage for old traditions to revive and new ones to blossom. Our community outreach extends far and wide, connecting us to the very heartbeat of Racine, from Kelly at the RC to Carrie at Reef Point, Caleb at the boat launch, Janie and Tom at Park and Rec, in the heart of downtown Racine. We are woven into the fabric of our city. Our mission is not merely to revitalize the park, it is to reawaken the spirit of Racine. We envision a festival park as a vibrant, welcoming space, a sanctuary where community engagement thrives and a business sponsorship flourishes. As a marketing powerhouse for events hosted at Festival Park, our platform will streamline the event management process, will transform it into a seamless and efficient experience. Our mission extends beyond event management. It's to empower event planners and charities with the tools and strategies to successfully promote their endeavors. We envision a comprehensive event marketing package that encompasses syndication to leading event calendars, featured placements, social media amplification, targeted email marketing, local media coverage, voice search optimization, and seamless ticketing solutions. We are deeply grateful for the opportunity to make a tangible impact on our beloved community with unwavering commitment and shared vision. We stand ready to reimagine, rediscover, and revitalize Racine's Festival Park. So I'm thanking for your time and consideration, but we manage events all over, mostly endurance events, but all events have the same tools and resources, and every event is different. It's up to us to bring those together. Each individual client.
Yeah, then I'll come back. I appreciate the vision, and it's actually inspiring. Thank you for that. I'm concerned about the details. Clearing up the head table and, for the wedding, laying things out there. I don't see how that translates to 5K events. I've attended many of them, so I have a feel for what you do there. Don't understand how it's going to work with caterers. Bringing the community together, great. The details are what can make or break something. You do understand, what your experience is and how it translates into running those kind of events and utilities.
At its core, event planning is working with the facilities and the powers that be in order to get all the decision making.
Can you come to the podium, please?
Organization is at its core there, leadership is at its core. To answer Terry's question is, they need to communicate effectively with all of the users and the stakeholders, and in doing so, these two in particular are incredible detail orientation and organization, so as promotion. And so at some point, while on a broader scale, the concepts remain the same, and the capacity to plan is immense. These, both of them, as the primary users and primary people within 5K events, deeply committed to it, and certainly I've seen them over a period of 13 years handle all the detail with incredible grace, and all the things that happen in the course of running public events, they find a way to get through it. It's not necessarily complex per se. It's the same concept over and over again, in this case, at a large scale.
Thank you. I'll get to you in a second. So, I don't know who can answer this question, but I do love the fact that you are from the area. So I have a two-part question for you. What are your plans in getting those vibrant festivals back down to the festival hall? And what are your plans in repairing those relationships that may have been severed? Because as a child, I remember all the festivals that were happening downtown. That's when Racine was really vibrant. The communities seem to be closer because we look forward to some of these festivals, and now we have to travel abroad to enjoy ourselves. And we have this beautiful lakefront. It makes absolutely no sense for us not to bring that back somehow, some way. So I would love to hear from you what your plan is, if you can.
I'll start. Okay.
So our first 6 months is going to be sales and marketing. We have to bring back events, but just a little back history. I was vice president of the world's largest event planning franchise, so corporate events, trade shows, expos. And I left that company to start 5K events 10 years ago. So it's not just endurance events that I'm familiar with, there's much more, much broader than that. But our first 6 months, most events are not planned overnight. Most events have a 6 month to a year planning period. So we know that our first 6 months really gonna be engaged in the rebuilding, rebranding, revitalizing, getting out in the community, talking to folks, talking to Salmon-Rama, see if we can get them back. We're not gonna get Italian Fest back this year, we know that. But if we can show that Festival Park is growing and the events are taking place and there's energy and people are showing up, there won't be a reason for them not to come back. So, that's what we wanna generate. So if we don't have an event happening that weekend, our goal would be to have a beer garden and bands there on weekends that we don't have events. We want people to have a reason to come to the Festival Park every weekend, even if we don't have a charity or somebody else who wants to orchestrate one. So one thing we don't do is wait for events to come to us, we'll create them. So, and we'll create them and we'll bring people in. So you want to explain it?
I would argue that, listening first is to be the most important thing, is to find out, what the experience has been like yours and mine. We love joining the festival. And when that stopped happening, I think there's a great need in the community for that to continue or to be reunited. And so starting first, listening to the constituents, listening to people who would be planning events, listening to those who show interest, and to find people who had used it previously. We have to understand what the symptoms are and what the causes were, and then correct those things and make it attractive for that to happen. So listening first, and then marketing the solutions that it can be, right? At some level, the community during COVID suffered, and I think there's a yearning now for people to reconnect with their city and with others. And so by listening and by asking questions and building those relationships, which is the heart of their business now, I think that's the best place to start, including talking to the existing employees to find out what their feedback has been. So by formulating a lot of questions and answer periods, we can understand how we can best turn this around.
I'm just gonna ask Patrick to mention kind of his vision for working with local businesses, but also local nonprofits.
Okay, one of the issues that we've seen with Festival Park is there's a contract exclusive to Danny's Catering. That didn't make any sense to us because it's a community park, and we all built that park by making donations, planting trees, and pitching in for tables, and it was to bring the community together. It wasn't to give one company the exclusivity of catering. And now Danny's has their own hall. So if he's busy with that hall with other things, then we're at his mercy if we can put an event in there that needs catering. So we want to open it up to all caterers that want to do business in Festival Park. Now, granted, there's going to be some contractual obligations that we have to follow through, and liability, insurance, and those would all factor into it. But we want to open up everybody in this community to do events. And we're going to work with these charities that want to do events, and we're going to show them how to create an event and be profitable. That's what we do with our events right now. If someone comes to us and wants to do an event, we guarantee them they will not lose money on their event, and we show them how to do it. It's either heads or sponsorship. So you bring people in or you have sponsorships, one of the two. The ideal is to have both, but we're going to show them how to do it. We'll have, people always say, well, it's too expensive to be down in Festival Park. But we need to find out why is it too expensive? What are they charging that is making it too expensive, and make it equitable for both the city and for the people that are coming in. A lot of times they'll say, well, what are you comparing this to? Like Salmon-Rama, when I talked to them last week, I said, what are we comparing it to? If you come down to Festival Park, you don't have to get bathrooms, you don't have to rent a tent. There's things that you won't have to do. How much are we going to save by doing that? So we can make this work. So, and if we still can't get the numbers, we need to help them find sponsorship, so we'll get them a venue sponsor that can sponsor their event. To make it work for them, so. And Festival Park's gonna draw more people than sitting in the cause by a small parking lot. So,
Alder Lane, you have the floor.
Yeah, I just would like to say that I'm glad to see somebody local involved too, that knows the community. I like your idea of opening up the catering, as you just mentioned, I would like to see that happen too. And, one of the things, you know, it's hardly anything going on down there now, but when there is something going on, all of a sudden you see these cars there and they're not advertising it. And they have comedians or something down there and nobody heard about it. So, you know, I wanna know. A lot of the places that have left, some of them left events from COVID, they went like prom, went out there. I'd love to see them come back and have the night to remember prom for the special needs kids. That would be great. And I know a lot of these organizations are already booked for next year, so we can't get them this year, we know that. I'd like to see a lot of them come back. And, I wanna know, is your focus gonna be mainly on community events rather than private events? But are you gonna do both of them? Do you see, how much of the staff do you have now? And will you be able to get enough staff to support it once it gets moving and going? I know these are a lot of questions.
So it'll be a mix, private and public events. Local charities is gonna be our primary focus. We're gonna show them our software that we developed for them. And one of the things, Stacy and I, we looked at the venue site right now and we see, they're promoting, we do prom and we do Brewfest. I think Brewfest hasn't happened in 10 years. There's a list of events that they're doing that they pay that haven't existed in years. So like, why are they promoting that? They don't do that. But if you go onto the calendar and you click on an event, if that's a public event or a private event. I think Steve and I went down to an event last week. What was the name of that event? It was the Indian.
The Wally.
Well, and we thought it was open to the public, but it was private. Well, how does the public know that? So we'll have every event that's hosted at that site, whether it's a wedding or a festival, will have its own website that we link to. We'll have a calendar and it'll say whether it's a private event or a public event. They'll have volunteer opportunities that the event direct planner can use on the website. They'll have sponsorship opportunities built into the system. We'll show them how to generate more income than they were generating before through the system. So that's exactly what we do right now. We're trying to change that.
I would argue that the bones of both Memorial Hall and Festival Hall are solid. There's good bones, right? But then again, the problem has always been keeping that updated website and promoting it, right? Digital marketing is native to both of these people, right? That's how they build their business now. And so it's all about promotion. It's all, people pay $40 and $50 to run in a public course. At some level, they encourage people to pay to come to their events. They have to find people who are willing to do so. They have to, so technology and marketing and promotion is everything, right? You take a solid beginning, you add in some conscientious people who love this town, who have seen a better day, who are native digital marketing people, and that's a very good place to start.
And to answer your question, people, we have talked with hundreds of people that want to be a part of this. They want to get engaged. There's community gardens around the city. They would love to take over the gardening down there, take a section and build on that. When you get more of the community involved, you're going to see more people more interested in this, in that space now. The other thing is, when I wanted information at Festival Park, I looked at it like it's just Festival Park. It doesn't really show what's down there. We went through Memorial Hall. We didn't even know until we toured the facility that it's more than just the grand ballroom. There's the lower level, there's the upper level, there's rooms in there that we can rent out. There is no way the public would know that unless they took a tour of that facility. So we've already created a website. We've already built all the things that we don't like about Festival Park. We put it in and projected just waiting to turn that on, and, it'll be much different than it used to be then. So.
You, three questions. What's, are you gonna have the liberty to change the fee schedule? And the question comes because many of the complaints that I've heard over the years are, we just can't afford to go to Festival Hall anymore. For example, their beer, well, we have to pay them for the beer, it's ridiculous, we don't make any money.
That's a latitude we need to talk to the city about, and see if they will allow us to do that, and we want to. We don't need 100% profit every year. I mean, maybe the city wants all that,
Right?
but, you know, what's 100% of nothing, it's nothing, so 50% of a lot. It makes a big difference.
What's gonna be your financial obligations with the city?
I don't know. That's for us to.
Well, I think those are important things. before
It is
you come
important.
into this project.
The contract that we were presented is what we did on, but we know that that's the motion. And so we will move to the next step is to work with the purchase of finance to get that figured out.
You've been downtown and, I'm sure you've noticed that, we have a little bit of a homeless concern in that area in particular. One of the other biggest concerns that are expressed to me are always, there's too many homeless people, I don't feel safe. How do you envision dealing with that issue? I know it's difficult and it takes many parties, but do you have a vision for that?
But you're right, it is a systemic and chronic problem, none of which anyone's been able to solve per se. We want to use the methods that the city's already using, working with the police department, and again, promoting and supporting whatever's being done, but I don't know that we necessarily have the answer that no one else has been able to figure out either. Love to say that we did, but at some point it's working in concert with the city and with the police department to make that perception that it's unsafe go away.
Can we share with Parkers here? So that little Veterans Terrace Parkway, the parks has converted that and changed that to a park instead of just open space. So they will have some regulations to control some of that. But a lot of it's pride. It's pride in the center, and it's pride in the space. And, I talked to Joe Charlo at Halo, and he has a Hispanic group that he bring it down where they keep that place cleaned up, make it one of the primary products. But we just have to get the community involved, get the pride back, clean it up. I can't say that's gonna be easy. But we're gonna do everything we can to drop this. We look at that's our house, we need to clean it, so.
Over the years, I don't think there's been a year since I've been in council for the last decade that we actually made anyone at Festival Hall. So I'm curious to, or encourage the city to work with maybe reducing some of those fees to get people back, because it's not just Festival Hall, if the people come there, then there's gonna be outreach into the neighboring community downtown.
Hotels will still heads and beds, hotels will still up, the restaurants.
With our hotel and everything, and I think it's important that we make it attractive enough that we can bring the people there, but not just Festival Hall, but for the rest of the dynamic downtown that we have.
Well, and that's another issue with the website. It doesn't promote downtown. It doesn't promote what's available down here right now. There's no, I mean, let's face it, this park is a jewel between Milwaukee and Chicago. Our costs are minimal compared to Chicago and Milwaukee. Why wouldn't somebody want to come? We're not projecting that image. Something, something.
And in cases where affordability is it's an access problem, there's going to come times when we can cluster things together, like prom and the special needs prom, keeping the decorations in place and letting a different set of people come with a special set of needs. And so whenever we can bring in a nonprofit or others and have them share costs and or bundle it together, we're going to do that to make sure that everyone has as much access as possible. It shouldn't be exclusive to private events or only public events. It's going to be based on the goals of this organization and this and 5K, how that when happens. There shouldn't be any reason why it can't become profitable, or certainly closer to profitable than it has been in the past. That's going to come with sharing the good bones with more people.
We call it piggyback. So often we'll piggyback with festivals and events all around. And we bring the runners in, They take, the festival start off with 200 people right out of the gate, because we brought the runners at 8 o'clock in the morning, the festival right there until 10 o'clock. So that merit is important to us, and so we can work it out and do free cost. There's a lot of creative ways to do it, but I think Festival Park right now, for lack of a better word, is that it's run operation. Or transacting, they're not, if you go in there, they're running an operation, they're not sales oriented, they're not looking to. How can I help you be more profitable? How can I bring you back next year? Because if we do it back, that's all, I'm signing up here that day. Same day. And I don't think these folks are doing it, I agree.
Well, one of the things that we asked Venue Works when we ran the tour was, which part of this is the most difficult for you? And in the end, it was just, we can't be sales and marketing and operations. And so to your point about setting up events, the operational side of things, it would be our intent to interview the people who are currently working with Venue Works, determine which of those can get on board with our vision with it, and then keep as many of those as possible. In the event that there are going to be impediments to change and evolution and adaptation, they may not be continued. But the goal is to keep the operational piece as solid as it can be and relieve them of the part that causes them the most stress, which is sales and marketing, which again is their background.
Thank you. I'm wondering, it's a little backwards, but could you introduce your team and,
Sure.
and, kind of tell me what your roles are? The roles are in the organization and.
Well, I'm Patrick Flynn and I'm the president. We started this in 2010. My wife started it as a Planet Ahead Events franchise. I was vice president out of West Palm Beach, and we ran it for 2 years. We came up with this event by our PTI was looking for a way to bring income, and we did a spear fund through the Unify, and then all of a sudden it just kept tumbling. So then 2013, Planet Ahead Events. I mean, 5 events. So and then Stacy.
Hi, I'm Stacy Wilkandus. I say right hand man to him. I'm the event director at 5K. I go through the process of explaining everything to the people that come in and go over events. My background, I have a lot of different backgrounds. I've done event planning, I've bartending, catering, lots of catering. So I've worked in a lot of different industries where I know what is needed. I've helped with weddings, I help with planning weddings, and not just that, I work in medical too. I help plan events for this, so I have a very wide variety of things. So, yes, I am.
Very good people.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I'm Steve Terosian. I'm on the advisory committee for 5K events. I'm not an employee as these two are, and so I forgive me if I've given the wrong impression that I'm not part of it, but I'm just not employed.
We don't pay them, but we make them.
Yeah, right.
Can I, just for the follow-up, can you talk a little bit about your city management experience? I mean, I understand that your event stuff and promotion and social marketing is fabulous. What about the
That would be the lighter side of our experience in property management. Our goal would be to retain the operational staff if we can at Festival Park. Wherever we have a weakness, we'll hire someone to fill that role for us. So
and the budget to do that comes through both this contract
Right.
as well as the revenue generated from.
that's my understanding.
In this case, we would be in control of those facilities. In most cases, over the last 13 years since they planned events, they've had to work in concert with other people who were making decisions. And so at some point, finessing our way through that is what we've needed to do. But if we were in control of the facility, it would be a needs assessment and understanding how it's going to be done. What's in place currently, we're not looking to, break the wheel in every case, but to use the resources and positive attributes that are already in place, right? These, I know that the people who work for Venue Works now are, they work long hours, and we want to understand that. We want to understand how they fit in with us, who's doing what. But those are details that, we have to cause has to be done. We don't have to necessarily do. That makes sense.
Any other questions or discussion? Paula McCarthy, 11 McGrath.
Sorry. The incumbent vendor has expressed concern that they can't plan any events beyond the end of their contract. So when we get to February of 2025, that means that, and there's there, they say, well, I can't do anything in January of 2026, or I don't have the contract anymore.
I think that's foolish. They're here to promote that venue, regardless of when the event comes in. If somebody comes to an inquiry today for July, they should be selling that deal.
And in the best interest of the city and of the population of the city, if there comes a time that you have a different vendor than us, we're gonna work with the new vendor to ensure that the best quality events are set forth for the people of this great town.
We actually sponsoring events for open weekend and things, that's something that we're looking to, including contractually at this point. It's nice for you to say it out loud, but
Oh,
you don't have to answer it right now. I just.
Yeah, I mean, our goal is to fill that every weekend have something going. That's our plan. So, and the filler is going to be, we hope, a beer garden with the local band that play down there. Just have a reason for people to know, it's first Friday. Everybody comes first Friday. I have no idea what's gonna happen that day, but we all come down to see what's happening. We want the same thing at Festival Park. They know something's happening down there. They just don't know what it is.
Thank you. See, two of you, so that's one. That's one over here. What other staff do you have? You're promising about marketing, those kind of things?
Well, yeah,
You're
but-
gonna maintain your 5K run, probably more like, yeah.
We're a volunteer-driven company, which Festival Park will be a volunteer-driven park as well. So we plan to recruit volunteers to help us. But we have a volunteer coordinator, Sue Nicholson, who is phenomenal. I can't imagine doing this without her. So we have what we call weekend warriors. So there's Jeff Curtis and Randy Larson, who are on the payroll, but are just there. They just come on the weekends and occasionally we do some other events in the weekdays. But that's gonna be part of our challenge, but I wouldn't call it a challenge. It's fairly easy for us to fill voids in this.
There's also gonna be a responsibility on the part of whichever organization is using the parks, to help with that volunteer recruitment. So, we're not gonna do this for them, we're gonna do this.
There's no way we could orchestrate an Italian fest with existing staff. There's no way we could run San Rama if they didn't have volunteers. So every event requires volunteers. So that's gonna be primary.
And we think that there's a wellspring of goodwill, that people want to come back and do those, and help with those, events. I think people are yearning for community. And this is the soul of Receipt. This is the heart of it all. People will, I think, show up and we'll be glad to bring that back.
For our finance director, base management fee of $150,000. That implies there's more to it by calling it a base management fee. Why it's called a base management fee as opposed to a management fee? Anticipate greater costs in this?
So in the contract, there is right now, as it reads again, we still have to negotiate the contract. We haven't even started that process yet, obviously. But the way I'm gonna say the Venue Works contract reads is there's a base management fee. I will say that the management fees between both vendors that bid were extremely similar. I think Venue Works was 144, they were 150, so very similar in terms of that base fee. In addition to that, right now, the Venue Works contract has some percentages on commissions relating to alcohol sales and things like that. Again, all of those things are negotiable, so I don't want to get too deep into what that will look like. Because I think honestly, this contract will look different than what the current Venue Works contract looks. But again, city administrator is going to be involved, I'm going to be involved, Park and Rec's going to be involved in negotiating with the attorney's office, of course, as well. There also was traditionally in the old contract, kind of a split of profit language. We haven't had so much of that in the last couple of years. But again, that would be something that would be negotiable in the contract. And then there is always, and I do want to be clear, city is not making money hand over fist on this event center. We actually give a pretty significant subsidy to run both festival and Memorial Hall over and above the $150,000 base management fee. We would love for that subsidy to be zero, not gonna lie, I would love for that to be zero and that this is absolutely successful. But that is part of the budget, is to have a subsidy associated with that.
We're being asked to basically hand over to staff at this point, everything that's described here.
Yep.
I'm a little concerned about that, not that I don't trust staff here, but there are all kinds of questions that have been asked here, and there's a million more as well. And I'd like to see in some fashion that, yes, that happens, but it comes back, honestly, then for final approval or something along those lines. I'm uncomfortable completely handing it over the full negotiation when there's all kinds of implications about shared revenue, all those kind of things that I don't know. We're gonna be the ones that have to answer all the questions on it, and I'm comfortable when it's completely handed over to staff. And so I don't know if that means they'll fix the recommendation at this point or the motion. But I'm looking for your input on that, I guess, as staff at this point.
And so I think I would agree with you that there is a lot yet to be negotiated. We did want to get this through this process because we're on break for so long here and we didn't want to delay us being able to at least start the negotiation process, right? I think it would be fair, I'm trying to find Paul to make sure, but I think it would be fair to say that we could, if you so chose, change the recommendation to say that it would, the contract itself would come back once negotiated or something like that. I mean, we're perfectly fine with that, obviously. Because it's going to be different than the one that is currently in place. That one is 12 years old. It's dated, to say the least.
So hopefully we can include that when you're making a motion. I just think, like that way.
After whatever's I'll allow you to make that motion once we get over on this.
Yeah, that's one of the questions I had, was who's gonna work with them to decide the fee schedule and everything else? You're saying the staff is going to do that?
So let me back up by that in terms of the fee schedule. So the contract itself with the vendor does not talk about the fee schedule per se. It will talk about their flat fee that they get paid, the subsidy, if there's any sharing of commissions or things like that, it'll talk about that. It'll talk about how often they have to report back to us, their financial information, all of that. The fee schedule, and I'm gonna look at Paul again, because I honestly don't know. There used to be a commission. I don't know if there's still a commission. I don't know how the fee schedule is set. I'm gonna be honest, I really don't.
Right, so VenueWorks currently is allowed to set their fee schedule, and to your point, so alcohol sales, revenue sharing, that's all spelled out in the contract. It can be, but it's so old. They did refer to the Civic Commission at one point, supposed to report their rates, and that doesn't exist anymore, so it comes to the city and the finance department and the city administration. So again, I envision a whole new, the bones of the contract, the sections are probably there, but I think you're gonna see a very different contract than Venue would say, based on the operations that they're interested in.
So, Patrick, the question for you, the downtown Review you mentioned, in your presentation, downtown Review Corporation has about 90 events scheduled for the year. What do you anticipate your relationship to them being?
Well, first, we want to create an advisory council for us, which we hope would include Kelly, Terry, Kayla, the hotels. We're all on the same page. It's all about bringing people downtown, going to the businesses, staying at the hotels. So we're all gonna, I would assume, work together. I don't think anybody is against each other. The boats, the marinas gonna fill with transient boaters. We have events now. The restaurants will fill with customers. So we're all on the same page. Will we compete against events? I don't know. There'll be some conflict now and then, but nothing that'll take them. Well, a bad relationship with anyone.
So, hearing the explanation of all the unknowns at this point, how comfortable are you with stepping into being the person selected to run this when there are so many unknowns?
Well, I'm comfortable because talking to the city, for one, I wasn't comfortable with the initial contract that I read that was with Fedicare. The fact that it's negotiable, and I believe the city has the same desire that we do, is to bring a place that we can buy from. Determine why events have left and resolve those issues, so that if that means lowering the fees or adjusting. I would think that the city's pretty open to that. And we'll work with whatever we end up having, whatever the tools are, whatever the fee structure ends up being. We'll work with that to make it, whether we gotta get more sponsors, get a beverage sponsor, get a venue sponsor. To make it, that's where that's. So, but keep in mind, we're not walking into festival, Memorial Hall, Festival Hall, which has, I mean, combined, when I call it the Trinity, you got Festival Park, and Memorial Hall, which actually has 5 different spaces that could be rented out. But we're walking into a very large campus of event space that's not being used right now. We'll have a good 3 to 6 months to get comfortable with this space before these events start, because they're not coming in overnight. We might have a funeral come in there. We might have a last minute wedding, but it's not going to be a trade show or an expo. They just don't happen 6 months to a year down the road. It's just the way it is. So we have some time to negotiate these things and work it out.
All right, one last follow-up.
What is the relationship, maybe, you or Terry can answer this, but what's the relationship to having a liquor license to be able to have liquor in both of them?
That's way better for.
I might be able to answer that one. So the liquor license is actually currently with VenueWorks. So VenueWorks would obviously go out and conditionally surrender the license to whoever is managing the facility. We are not allowed to take a percentage of alcohol sold from any vendors through any contract. So this would essentially be, they're going to be creating those prices, I believe, in the contract and things like that once negotiated. But they do have a liquor license currently at both facilities. They can conditionally surrender the license over and it would just go to the facility of transfer.
Thank you. All right, thank you for the robust conversation at this time. Alderman McCarthy,
Motion with only a minor change to the transition. Move that the purchasing agent be authorized and directed to negotiate contract number 2024-002, RP Event Management Services. Award the contract with 5K Events LLC and pending review by the Financial Personnel Committee, execute a 2-year contract for the period of 2024 and 2025. So that is there and pending review by.
all right, second. All right, so we have properly moved by Alderman McCarthy and properly seconded by the chair. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Amendments approved. All right, next, motion approved, sorry. Sorry. Motion approved.
The second. Yeah,
Okay, 1 meeting, I'm not coming back to this. Rest of the year.
it's a long way. Okay, ready?
Okay.
Item number 118-23, communication sponsored by Alder West on behalf of the city clerk requesting permission to submit the 2024 through 2025 election officials for approval. Staff recommendation that the 2024 to 2025 election officials be approved.
Thank you. So every other year, I'm required by state statute to bring a list of election officials to the common council. This list is only containing the list currently from the city clerk's office. The list from both political parties will be added prior to the December 5th meeting. They're not technically due by state statute until November 30th. So I was waiting to receive both lists prior to the presenting. So right now you can see the list actually attached with all of the ones of people who are currently employed by the city clerk. However, the additional list for both Republican and Democrat parties will be added prior to the December 5th meeting.
All right, all the press.
On that list, Sarah, you have John Tate the second on non-employee and then that. Was that in there? Or was that
Staff list or non-employee staff list?
on the non-employee?
It's quite possible. We had just switched over the system for staff versus non-staff, so we'll make sure he's moved over to staff.
Any other questions? Right, seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve item 1118-23. Do I have a second?
Second.
Uh-oh. All right. Most properly moved and properly seconded by Alderman Lamb. All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, motion carries.
Item number 1115-23, communications sponsored by Alder West on behalf of the city clerk requesting permission to enter into an agreement with the Wisconsin Election Commission for a memorandum of understanding relating to Badger books. Staff recommendation that the city clerk be authorized to enter into an agreement with the Wisconsin Election Commission for a memorandum of understanding relating to Badger books. Clerk.
So this item is actually a memorandum of understanding with the state, the Wisconsin Election Commission. We've used Badger Books citywide since 2020. We're very thankful to have a grant to be able to implement them. The Election Commission is still catching up. We're one of the largest cities to use it. We are the largest city to use it citywide. However, multiple smaller communities are adding on to include Badger Books. This agreement just came out from the Election Commission. Reading through it, it's already a list of things we currently do and practices we already follow while using Badger Books. The state is looking to make sure that agreements are not per clerk, but agreed to by the city council. So they asked to have proper sign off of the agreement.
Thank you. Any questions? All right, at this time, I'll make another motion to approve 1115-23. Do I have a second? Properly moved by the chair and seconded by Alderman McCarthy. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
Item number 1116-23, communications sponsored by Alder West on behalf of the city clerk requesting permission that the list of voting locations for all elections in the 2024 calendar year be approved. Staff recommendation that the list of voting locations for all elections in the 2024 calendar year be approved. Clerk.
So all of these lists are the same exact list from last year. We do still have an opportunity to use them. We have been in contact with RUSD to make sure we can use these locations as they are undergoing construction. So far, we're good with all of these locations. If they change, it comes back before council. I just like to make sure yearly when I have to bring the other items that it's very clear and out there which locations. So this is for normal election day voting activities.
Any questions? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion at this time for item 1116-23.
Move to approve the list of voting locations.
Do I have a second? All right, probably moved by Alderman McCarthy and seconded by Alderman Paffrath. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
Item number 1114-23, communications sponsored by Alder West on behalf of the city clerk requesting permission that the list of alternate early absentee voting locations for all elections in the 2024 calendar year be approved. Staff recommendation that the list of alternate early absentee voting locations for all elections in the 2024 calendar year be approved. Clerk.
My very last. So in this item is a list of all the early absentee voting locations. These are all the locations that are visited by the mobile election unit or that we have standard election voting at, early voting at. So you'll see a long list in here. The list for each election next year has to be exactly the same due to February being the primary for April the primary for November for presidential, and August being the primary for November. So our election cycles actually coincide. This does not go over our type E, which our type E will be published and posted both online on our website as well as a newspaper by law. That includes a specific date and times in which locations are chosen. Typically, we do it between 20 and 21 locations in the mobile election unit. This year will also include 2 additional locations, which we use for at least a week in both weekends prior to the election.
All right, any questions at this time? All right, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion for item 1114-23.
Move to approve. Second.
Properly moved by Alderman Horton, seconded by Alderman McCarthy. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries.
It's been fun.
Thank
You know,
you.
the pleasure's been ours.
Great patient.
Good.
Item number 1124-23, communication sponsored by Mayor Mason on behalf of the Human Resources Director requesting permission to submit the updated City of Racine Employee Handbook for consideration. Staff recommendation that the updated City of Racine employee handbook be approved and take effect January 1st, 2024. Fiscal note, the updates to the employee handbook primarily focus on expanding leave time opportunities, which may result in additional overtime in some departments. Anticipated costs associated with these changes have been incorporated in the 2024 budget. Director Horton is here to speak on the item.
Good evening. As Director Fisher just stated, we're here for the handbook, the employee handbook. I will just go down the bulleted items. The first two, we already had pre-approved at the budget meeting. So as far as the increased vacation accrual, basically that was done to help prevent burnout, promote better work-life balance, and to help us with recruiting and being a more attractive employer. One of the major things, which I believe has been done in the past, is the vacation rollover. So instead of having it approved each year by Administrator Bornholt or myself, we are incorporating it as a part of the normal vacation process so that employees can roll over their vacation time. You will also notice that there was an increase in vacation that was provided. I'll just go over the first one, just from 10 days to 12 days, which is just an additional 2 days, but makes a difference when recruiting and retaining employees. The other change, additional casual day for eligible employees, and that would be granted to employees that use less than 16 hours or less of sick time per year. This was incorporated into the handbook to basically incentivize employees not to use their sick time since we've had a change with the sick leave payout. We don't want everyone to try to run through their vacation, so this is done to incentivize them to hold on to the vacation for additional days that would be used in next calendar year. The alternative work arrangement policy. When I came, I noticed that there were some departments that were doing alternative work arrangements independently. It wasn't a standardized thing. Some people don't qualify for FMLA and are able to work alternate hours if approved by their administrative managers. So this alternative work arrangement just standardizes that how we'll be issuing the policies for everyone and gives the administrative managers a reference and guideline. And the last two bullet points, the reasonable accommodation for pregnant workers is required by federal Workers Fairness Act. And the lactation breastfeeding is similar to if a person was asking for accommodations. So if there are a need for lactation or breastfeeding breaks, the city would work with that individual to provide a space that accommodates. That is all I have. I highlighted the ones that I thought were mainly huge changes or changes that would stand out. Have any questions?
All right, Alderman McCarthy, you have the floor.
Yeah, two questions and both may result from my poor memory, I'm not sure. I'm not aware of any change in vacation accrual. We talked about that during the budget process?
It's part of the handbook.
So in essence, is there a financial implication to that from the fact that we have to in overtime to handle
So
vacation?
they increased overtime. So let me back up that this doesn't necessarily relate to police and fire yet, correct? This is negotiable.
But anyway.
So, correct. So DPW probably would be one of the main areas that we would see any type of potential overtime. They do have extra overtime budgeted in their 2024 budget. I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't think it's going to impact it. I think there will be more lost productivity than there will be impacts to overtime. Because they just shift their schedules. For DPW, police and fire is a different ball of wax.
And can we go over, you mentioned one example of the, change in vacation to a policy, 10, 12 days, referendum employee. Is there other downstream impacts that after X amount of years, you get more than you got?
Yes.
Can we
Yes.
see,
So-
hear that schedule, please?
So on the updated handbook on page 37, it lays it out. Yep, that's fine.
In those,
Yeah,
So
it's really.
It's actually on 38, it's the actual chart. And it, if you're less than 4 years, you would get 96 hours, so you are able to carry over 2 weeks. So all of the, total hours have increased. So 4 years, but less than 9 years is 136 hours.
from
What was it before?
120.
Yeah. Let me go back to the previous thing. So from 10 days, it goes to 12. From the 15, it would be 17. So they essentially go up 2 additional days
2 days for each.
per each
Seniority
area.
spot.
Yes, and then they can take over 2 weeks to the next year. So we wouldn't see any effects of it until 2025, because it would start January.
The other question is probably for the elders in general and there. I know there was something we talked about at the budget, so yeah, that would be included in the handbook. And I did nothing here jog my memory on that. Is there anything anybody else can think of?
The tuition reimbursement is
Is that what it was then? And that is-
Mhm. That's in the handbook.
Okay. And Juneteenth, something.
Uh,
Yeah.
is Juneteenth in the handbook? It should be in
Yeah.
there.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion for item 1124-23.
Who the updated handbook?
Second. All right, properly moved by Alderman McCarthy and seconded by Alderman Lamb. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Item number 1136-23, communication sponsored by Alder West on behalf of the Director of Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Services requesting permission to submit a 1-year extension of the Racine Zoological Society Gardens operating agreement for consideration. Staff recommendation that the mayor and city clerk be granted permission to approve and execute a 1-year extension of the operating agreement for the Racine Zoological Gardens between the city of Racine and the Racine Zoological Society Incorporated upon terms presented. Fiscal note, the city's zoo subsidy of $510,000 in account 150995210 was approved in the 2024 budget. Director Molback is here to speak on the item.
So yes, good evening. I'm here tonight to ask for your approval for a 1-year extension for the zoo contract. This past year, or this year that we're in right now, the city has been working with the zoo to come up with a long-term agreement that hasn't been for quite some time. And unfortunately, because of some of it being the last council meeting, we quite able to get that long-term contract done. So we're looking for an extension at this point, with the idea that we will still negotiate with the zoo. And hopefully in the beginning of the year or somewhere close to the first of the year, we will be able to bring to you a long-term agreement with the zoo. So I'm looking for your approval tonight for a 1-year extension.
Any questions? Alderman McCarthy.
Do you anticipate that if you finalize the agreement that would supersede this agreement?
Yes, that's what would be, yeah, so this would take place, and then once we bring the other, the actual long-term one, this one would expire.
So this would be up to a 1-year agreement. Basically, when you set that right now.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? All the preps?
Do you anticipate, because of the rising cost, that number will change to a higher number? The 510,000, right now, that's what we're sticking at, that dollar amount, that's what's in the budget. So you don't anticipate that the negotiated agreement will be for a higher amount? No, I believe that's one that's not being negotiated, so we have to find out.
I should know this because I serve on the Zoo Board too. And I'm gonna keep saying I'm new here, so I'm not here anymore. How long has this contract been in sort of just renewal?
So I believe this is the fifth, amended, contract to the, I can't say the existing.
So for 5 years, we've been, just renewing and negotiating.
That is correct.
But just going, so we've been stuck for 5 years.
We have that, there's been things that have come up where we've, had negotiated, not negotiate, but talk about, major maintenance as opposed to not, or minor maintenance. We also had a building, study done where we had to determine, what buildings were, higher in need and lower in need. So there were some different things along the way that caused that to happen.
I don't know if it's appropriate to discuss in this, format meeting, but some of the issues that are on the table that are sort of the things that have been difficult to resolve.
So I would be happy to give the committee a briefing on the status of the negotiations and the discussions between the two parties in the interest, but it really should be done in closed session.
Okay.
I don't know.
So is that doing it?
No. You need to, the chair has on closed session for the two.
Okay. Appreciate it.
All right, Alderman McCarthy.
Can I ask, Steve Attorney, we have a closed session plan anyway, and we discuss this item in closed session.
But I noticed for this.
It's on the agenda, but if it's not noticed for closed session, we can't do that then, right? Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. Any other questions or concerns? All right, seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve 1136-23. Do I have a second? Second. All right, properly moved by the chair and seconded by the vice chair. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carried. I do have a question. Do I have to do anything for a future meeting for this to go into close, or how will that work? I'm only asking because I don't know.
I think what I would recommend from this point, because you've already made a motion, I think that one of the elders should just put in a communication to go into closed session in our next meeting. Just send an email.
To
Tara.
Tara.
Yep.
All right, next item. Thank you. Yep, thank you.
Item number 1092-23, communication sponsored by Alder West on behalf of the city attorney's office submitting the claim of AT&T, care of the Claim Center LLC for consideration for disallowance. Deputy City Clerk, you're here to speak on the item.
This first claim from AT&T, was filed, asking for reimbursement in an unspecified amount of damages allegedly arising from an AT&T vehicle being struck by a City of Racine owned vehicle. Was parked in the 1600 block of Arthur Avenue in Racine back on March 27th, 2023. Our office recommends disallowance due to defects in the claim. Specifically, the claimant did not file their written notice of the circumstances of the claim within 120 days after the event that gave rise to the claim. It's going to be a recurring theme tonight. There are a bunch of claims with this issue. By law, a claim, the notice of the circumstances of a claim has to be filed with the city within 120 days of the event giving rise to the claim. Basically, in this case, the car accident. The accident was alleged to occur on March 27th, and 120 days after that would have been July 25th, but this claim was not filed until August 18th, so it missed that 120 day deadline. Therefore, it was untimely filed. And additionally, the claim fails to specify the damages sought. By law, the claim must contain an itemized statement of the relief sought. So for those two reasons, the claim is the fact that we recommend disallowance.
So everything about that paperwork was wrong, huh?
It was not
Right.
That's simple enough for me. I'll make a motion to disallow 1092-23. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Properly moved by the chair and seconded by Alderman. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right, motion carries. Next item.
Item number 1093-23, communication sponsored by Alder West on behalf of the city attorney's office submitting the claim of Renee Scoff for consideration for disallowance. Staff recommendation that the claim be disallowed.
This one, Renee Schaaf was in a, car accident, was a racing police squad car. They requested damages in the amount of $95,000. As a result of this auto collision, it occurred in the city, the intersection of English Street and Geneva Street, that on May 29th, 2022. The city disputes the amount of damages and its liability for these damages. Negotiations are continuing, but the deadline for disallowance is approaching, so we're putting this for disallowance to enforce that 6-month statute of limitations for future litigation.
I do have a question. If, they are in negotiations right now. How can we make a motion to disallow just in good faith?
Well, it's, disallowance just, invokes this 6-month statute of limitations that, limits the time that they have to file suit against the city. After they receive notice of the disallowance, after council passes it, that starts the clock ticking, so they have 6 months to either file a suit or, we are negotiating in good faith, so it might not come to that. That would be the deadline to file a lawsuit in court. If we don't disallow this, it then extends the time frame to the falls back to the normal statute of limitations for court actions, which I believe is 3 years, so it actually gives us a lot more time to wait and sue us. So that's all I'm asking, is that we can disallow today to invoke that 6-month statute of limitations.
Okay, I got it. Any other questions? All right, I'll entertain a motion at this time. For disallow. All right, second. Properly moved by Vice Chair Horton and seconded by the chair. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. I'm sorry. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Item number 1094-23, communication sponsored by Alder West on behalf of the city attorney's office submitting the claim of Jeffrey and Nancy Mueller for consideration for disallowance. Staff recommendation that the claim be disallowed.
So the next 5 claims on the agenda are all sort of stemming from the same incident. So I'm going to give you an overview of the sort of general commonalities between all these claims, and then as we go through each one, I'll let you know where, if at all, they differ. But there were 5 claims filed between August and September 2023 by residents in the 2300 to 2500 blocks of 20th Street, Racine, alleging damages to either their fences or sidewalk squares on their properties as a result of some alley work that was performed by Lalonde contractors, who were contracted by the city to do this alley work project during the spring, summer, and fall of 2022. So the city's contract with Lalonde indemnifies the city so that the contractor is liable for damages of this nature that result from the contracted alley work. So the city is not really the liable party, rather Lalonde contractors is supposed to responsible for these issues. The city has notified all the 5 claimants by mail that they should file their claims with Lalonde Contracting, which provides the address for the contractor to them. So we maintain that this is not the city's liability for these alleged damages. As I said before, the claimants by law have 120 days after the event giving rise to their claim to file a claim against the city, and each of these claims were filed well beyond the 120-day statutory deadline. They were filed almost a year to date. after the alleged damages. So they're not timely filed, and several of the claims also didn't include the requisite itemization of the alleged damages. So that's another, fault in the claims. But I can get down to the specifics of each one of these. I'll try to be brief. This first claim filed by Nancy and Jeffrey Mueller, they requested an unspecified amount of damages arising from damage to their fence at the 2400 block of 20th Street in Racine. And yeah, again, it was an untimely filed claim, and there was no itemization of the damages. So we've informed them that Milan Contractors is the proper party to file their claim with, and we recommend as well.
Yes, you have
The rules in place for, statute of limitations and, itemization, does that apply to the line when they, go up to them, so when they do?
These, those statutes are unique to municipal organizations, municipal bodies, so.
Yeah, relevant, if they go that direction.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
any other questions?
I have a question. Are we keeping track of whether or not Milan sort of takes care of the problems that they are creating in terms of what future contracts the city might grant to Milan if they're creating problems for homeowners and they're not really making good by it? Is there a way for us to know that? I mean, I know as an alder, I get complaints about things that are damaged I wouldn't necessarily know to recommend that the constituent contact the contracted service provider. Just, yeah.
It's my understanding that the DPW was aware that there were some issues with Lalonde in this particular project.
Okay.
They have taken note. I don't know exactly how they plan to proceed with Lalonde in future contracts, but I do know that they did take note that there were a number of issues.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so I remember some years back when I was on the council, that we did contract through Lalonde and we had very similar issues as well. So I'm just making a note, it was a mental note that I took from years ago. And so, I'm not sure if there was any system in place or must not have been, because we have moved forward. I mean, who knows if they were the only responsible bidder, I'm not sure how that looked at the time for the city to have moved forward with Lalonde. But if those who are serving, can take that mental note, because it's similar, what we're seeing come before us today, not to the extent of how many, but I had issues in my district after they did some work, so.
Do you know if we will use them moving forward, or is that something that DPW is in discussions about?
I would think that's something that gets discussed at the Public Works and Services meetings, when they're awarding contracts. I know this particular project was on DPW's radar. I don't know the specifics of how they make decisions in that regard. I mean, there's the lowest responsible bidder, whether or not this rises to the level of them being an unresponsible bidder. I don't know.
So do you remember if the issues that arose before came before us in the body of a lawsuit? Do you remember?
No, I don't think they ever got to that point. I think that the Department of Public Works did refer the constituents to deal with them, and I know my constituents did not. They were hoping that the city just would resolve it. They believed that the city was responsible because they hired them, and it just ended up falling into the waters, and I think they just managed whatever their issues were.
Okay. Thank you for the insight, Alderman McCarthy.
It shouldn't depend on the longevity or the memories of aldermen. There should be a process of things, because both of those can be very important. Come up with the communication from legal to public or something along those lines, indicating we've had multiple concerns. So I don't know what the right answer is, but it shouldn't depend on memory.
We do have responsive better language, some of which we just modified and the budget to strengthen it. Yep, that's. Scott, if we had anything specific about this, really all we require now is if they have insurance, but there's no sort of, are there complaints and sort of thing, so it might be something. We want to bring up with Joan, the Public Works Committee, maybe that's another area of consideration for what a responsible bidder is, have there been these sort of claims against the contractor? I don't know if you want to say if it's 1 year out or if it's 3 year out, or but it's something you could conceivably, the responsible bidder language, if the council so chose to use.
Yes. Initiate some of those conversations at this point. Yeah. we can-
I do know that.
No, there's usually family.
I mean, I can think of some occasions where we have referred to the contractors, and they've either been satisfied or there's been a lawsuit against the contractor and their insurance company, and we'll deal with it that way, so I do, I'm aware of some.
Any other questions? All right, at this time, I'll make a motion to disallow the first claim out of the 51094-23. All right, properly moved by the chair and seconded by Alderman McCarthy. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. If you're not opposed, I'll move to the next one.
Go
All
for it.
right, so I'll make another motion to disallow the 1095-23. Do I have a second? Second. Properly moved by the chair and seconded by the vice chair. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right, motion carries. Moving on to the next, I'll make a motion to disallow 1096-23. Do I have a second? Second. Properly moved by the chair and seconded by Alderman McCarthy. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. I'll make another motion to disallow 1098-33. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, probably moved by the chair and seconded by Alderman Land. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries, and is this the last one? All right, I'll make another last motion to disallow item 1099-23. Do I have a second? Second. All right, probably moved by the chair and seconded by the vice chair. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Who snuck in at 1097?
1097, where?
There isn't one. That's the one. Did all take much of it, the gap.
That's interesting.
So. I guess at this time, I'll entertain a motion.
You want me to read the closed session language
Yes.
and motion?
Yes.
How about that?
Yes.
It's intended that the Finance and Personnel Committee will convene in closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statute section 19.851G to discuss strategy for litigation in which the city of Racine is or is likely to become involved.
We'll come to further question.
Second. Roll call. We moved by Alderman McCarthy and seconded by the chair.
Alder West,
Aye.
Alder Gordon,
Aye.
Alder Man, Alder Packrat, Alder McCarthy. That sends us into, that's roll call, sends us into closed session.
Thank you.
All right.
Let me know when you're all set.